Part 6. Sonata didn't ask Sunset what the matter was that night. She never intended to ask her. Sunset would tell her in time if she wanted to. It took a while to calm Sunset down, although she denied to the end that anything was wrong. Sonata was patient. She held her friend, stroked her hair, spoke soothing words, kissed her forehead, ate her tea, ate her taco out like it was Taco Tuesday and Taco Bell. Ow! Nothing but time seemed to help, and maybe Sonata hoped the surprises was enough to comfort her friend's pain. She'd never seen Sunset break down like this. Sunset had always seemed beyond breaking down, even when she and her sisters had pointed out the uncomfortable half-truths during the Battle of the Bands incident. Sunset hadn't allowed the taunts to visibly affect her, no matter how much eternally they must have hurt. Fancily, blowing her nose with a tremendous smile, Sunset sat back up and took a deep breath. "Sorry about that," she said, wiping her face on another tissue. "Just a build-up, I guess." "It's okay." Sonata smiled, tilting her head to one side. "We all cry sometimes." She thought for a moment or two, then stood up. "How about I get something from that sandwich shop on the corner? Thai chicken flatbreads always cheer you up." "Can't argue with that," Sunset conceded. "Sure, here," she said, passing her a 20. "I know you have no cash on you at the moment," she said knowingly. Sonata grinned guiltily. Sonata couldn't honestly say that she was particularly thoughtful individual. That is to say, she didn't habitually think a great deal about things. She preferred to simply do or say things that came to her and wonder about the consequences later. As she strolled down the street to the intersection, tracing a familiar pattern of red and gold bricks to the plaza, she was thinking very, very hard. Sunset's behavior had shocked her. There was no other word for it. When Sunset had stepped into the apartment, Sonata looked at her with the full intent of running over and covering her in a paint-splattered hug. The thought Sunset was splattering her paint on her face had just been so funny in her head. But Sonata froze when she actually saw Sunset's face. Tears had stained her cheeks, and she was white as a sheet. The image had startled Sonata too much to remember her little trick, let alone saying anything to her. Her actions had been instinctive, dredged up from the primordial part of herself that seemed to know what to do, or at least what to try. She was thankful that, or now at least, it seemed to have worked. Sonata reached for the door to the shop, but her hand hit something else as she pulled away. "Oh," she said in slight surprise. "Hi, Rarity." "Darling," Rarity said pleasantly. "I've been meaning to chat with you. Are you ready in?" "No, I was getting something for Sunset," Sonata said, her face falling slightly. "She's not feeling well." "Oh my," Rarity said, low, serious. "Come on in. It's a bit silly to be standing around talking." The inside of the shop was small and cozy. It was warm, smelled of fresh bread and coffee, and had a charming retro tea house style to it, with wooden slab walls and pictures of grand national newspapers in the glass cases. It wasn't exactly Sonata's scene, but their sandwiches were good. Damn good. Sonata and Rarity sat down as they waited for their sandwiches. Rarity promised she wouldn't keep Sonata any longer than she needed to. "What I wanted to discuss was the dress ideas. Since you want to feature them in your posters, I know I gave you some ideas already. I do think that the one set in particular is my personal favorite scene. Well, I think it would be hardly wrong for me not to show you some more ideas." Sonata overlooked a number of pictures on Rarity's phone, but something in her face must have shown that her mind wasn't on target. "What's the matter, dear?" Rarity asked solicitously. "You don't really seem like yourself." "Yes, I'm just worried about Sunset still. I've never seen her like this before." This had an effect on grabbing Rarity's attention entirely. "Like what, Sonata? If she's seriously not ill, she might want to see a doctor." "She's not sick," Sonata said, staring at the tabletop. "At least, I don't think she is. She's sad about something. She won't tell me why, but..." Rarity listened with a growing look of astonishment. Sonata told her everything that had happened since Sunset came home. By the time Sonata had finished, Rarity's eyes were wide and her mouth hanging open. Sonata squirmed in her chair, unsure why Rarity was keeping her. "Rarity? They weren't kidding," Rarity breathed, as though she heard Sonata speak. "I thought they were serious." "Hello," Sonata said, waving her hand in front of Rarity's face. "Are you ready?" "I'm sorry. You're speaking on me there." "Oh," Rarity said, still looking dazed. Then she blinked and looked altogether more serious. "Sonata, Are you two, She hesitates so long, Sonata frowned confused. I mean, what? She asks, oblivious. Well, they explain why she had no real interest in Floss, Rarity said, talking to herself again. Are you and Sunset together? She said delicately. We live together, Sonata said, raising an eyebrow. No, dear, Rarity said, leaning forward. I mean, are you an item, a couple, two parts of the same whole? She messed her fingers together. A couple? Said out Blake. Like boyfriend, girlfriend? She asked, looking more confused than ever. I suppose that's my answer. Rarity sighed, shaking her head. Why would you think that? Sonata said, starting to. I mean, you're both girls. Did I suddenly step into a cliche Yuri manga or something? Well, yes, it would never occur to me, of course. Rarity says, so making a concession. Well, come on, darling. This is the 21st century. Two people who love each other, no matter who they are, isn't so surprising anymore. Sonata considered this, but I don't know Sunset. She didn't know what made her stop her sentence. It was as though a sudden thought or something had just dawned on her, but nothing did. So Squeeze's attempts to continue the sentence utterly failed her. I mean, I like her, sure, she's great. We live together, she's patient, kind, generous, and understanding. She trailed after this for a little while. Rarity gave her a beady look. Sonata, I know that death isn't really a thing. You're not a totally straightforward sort of person. You have no veneer or mask to strip away. Well, I think you need to take a long, hard look to think about what it is you feel. But, Sonata began, does Sunset know about this? Does she know a girl can like another girl? By what Applejack and Pinky told me, she's known a while. Rarity murmured. What? I'm sure she does, dear. Rarity said reassuringly. Most people do these days, as I say. Now, don't get me wrong. She said in an even more serious tone and putting her hand across Sonata's table. I'm not telling you what to feel or decide right now. These are matters of the heart. Just feel your way through it. And then decide at the end what you think would be best thing to do. The only people who truly touch this are those who feel it. A few seconds after the speech, the sandwiches arrive. Rarity's on a plate and Sonata's in a bag. Rarity cried, I asked you not to give me a pickin'. As the drama from this little mistake unfolded, Sonata contemplated Rarity's words. Rarity was right to see that Sonata was not a deep person in the sense he had an offensive personality that wasn't her real self. She never considered the subject of love seriously before. It certainly hadn't occurred to her with her roommate. The prospect even now was just so strange. Even as she felt this, however, doubts appeared in her mind. So such this behavior floated to the forefront of her mind and lingered like unanswered questions. And then even some of her own actions, things that she, Sonata, had done in the open forum of her thoughts, didn't quite make sense. Hiding away her drawings of Sunset, the fact that she had to be physically close to her whenever she could, the nicknames she teased her with. Somehow she always explained these things as Sunset being her friend, but now... I mean, it's just normal for friends to kiss each other passionately, lick each other's nipples, hold each other down on the bed, rip off each other's clothes, and OW! Sonata stood up. Thanks for telling me, Princess Rarity. See you later, she said, leaving the table. Sonata, Rarity said, bewildered. Sonata, where are you going? Her sentence trailed off at the end as the door closed with tinkling the doorbell. Rarity contemplated the door for a few moments, wondering if perhaps she had gone too far. Despite her actions at the sandwich shop, Sonata wasn't as impacted by the information as one might expect. And here more is something to think about, not something to worry about. Perhaps she was already too worried about other things. Or perhaps, although this didn't occur to her, she already knew the answer in the deepest, unknowable parts of herself. Whatever the case, it didn't seem to Sonata at least to be a priority now. Arya was in the hospital, perhaps never able to walk again, and Sunset was miserable about something. In the face of those sorts of problems, her own issues seemed insignificant. When she got back to the apartment, she found Sunset had pretty rarely much recovered, and even now more like her usual self, when Sonata pressed her sandwich and changed to her. Where's yours? My what? Sandwich. Oh, I didn't want one. Sunset frowned. I'm not letting you stop eating any more than I'm not letting you stop sleeping, she said severely. If I don't get to see you eat before bed tonight, I'll force feed you too. Don't think I won't. Okay. Sonata said. Her hands didn't surrender before pulling out her pink shirt. God, let's succeed. See me, Captain. So he went to continue painting the latest square of canvas, but didn't pause. Looked back to Sunset on her laptop. Her face was no longer pale. The haunted look had gone from her eyes. She seemed like her usual self right then. Her associate had never been sad at all. Sonata genuinely hoped that whatever it was no longer hurt her. Something wrong? Sunset asked, catching Sonata's eye. Huh? Sonata gave her head a shake. No, that's fine. Just daydreaming. She gave a winning smile and went back to painting. Then she stopped again, paintbrush in mid-stroke. She pondered something for a moment and then asked, when were you thinking of going to bed? In an hour, I guess, Sunset said, taking time on her laptop. Why? No reason. Just didn't want to keep you awake. Good news on the funding front, by the way, Sunset said with satisfaction. Flim and Flam are on board, although I had to bargain hard for it. Violet's perfectly happy to set us up with some rental equipment, so as long as she gets the DJ for us again. What did you end up bargaining Flim and Flam for? Sonata asked darkly. They get to sell merchandise on our behalf and keep a share of the profits, Sunset sighed. They had to be able to make money here, or they would never have gone for it. Advertising alone, the appearance of being actual caring human beings, apparently is enough for them. She shook her head in fake disgust. I honestly wonder how they get along with business at all. By tricking people, Sonata huffed, splashing an angry stroke of red across her painting. Also, the printing company is ready and waiting for your poster ideas. They're ready? Sonata waved her palette at the small pile on the coffee table. She finished the square she was working on and set it to dry on the wall. She had 2 walls full now. She would take down the dry ones tomorrow morning and continue over. Taking another sheet of canvas, she went to sketch the lines to another piece of the project when she halted. An image came to her mind. She looked quickly at Sunset from behind her easel, thinking of her zip pocket of hidden pictures. She sketched out something, mollified it a little, and went back, looking at the whole thing. It was a quick picture, a simple sketch, a simple paint job, but there was a restlessness there that made her overtake her mind. The picture made her happy. Suddenly, the prospect of continuing to paint her other project was daunting. You know, she said quite out of the blue, I'm going to turn in early tonight. Get a fresh start on all tomorrow. Well, that's good, Sunset said. You're still eating something, though. Of course, Sonata rolled her eyes. She took the canvas off the easel and waved it through the air a bit, hoping to dry quicker. Then, making sure Sunset wasn't watching her, rolled it up and set it to the side. Yawning most convincingly, she went to pick something out of the fridge while Sunset took a shower. Hey, do you like to sleep in your bed? Sonata asked as Sunset exited the bathroom. She was so repressed the smirk as she continued. It was really comfy this morning. She waited for Sunset to react. To yelp in surprise or even give her a stern look. Sonata liked his little reactions, and frequently tried out small things that came to her mind and evoked them. There was consideration, however. Sunset did none of these things. Sending a long towel with a smaller one wrapped around her head, she was looking spectacly at the canvas on the walls, as though debating something within herself. Sonata had the sense that Sunset hadn't heard her, so about to repeat her choke when Sunset spoke up. If you like. If I like what? You can sleep on my bed if you like, she clarified. No, I was kidding. It was a joke. Sonata struggled, raised her hands. Sunset seemed to be listening to her again. I mean, where would you sleep? The bed's meant for 2. Sunset went on, still contemplating the stretch of canvas squares. Sonata understood far too late she really landed herself in it now. Rarity's face drifted irresistibly to her brain, reminding her of the conversation. She just had to say no. She didn't want to sleep in Sunset's bed. For now, at least. Woo! It had been just a joke, but she found a simple explanation curiously difficult to give as she looked at Sunset's face. She suddenly realized that maybe whatever Sunset's mind earlier was still there, no matter how much diminished weighing on her. She couldn't say no to her now. Oh, come on, Sunset said, probably guessing Sonata's thoughts from her expression, from her silence. We're both grown up not to overreact to something like this. There's room enough for 2. It's not like I haven't slept in a room with 6 other girls after all. And there's a slumber party, Sonata meekly said from her easel. Think of this as a slumber party, then. Sunset said, turning to her room. I'm going to sleep. You do what you like. Just try not to make too much noise if you decide to sleep in my room. She gave Sonata a brief smile, then left the chains. Sonata stood next to her easel at Sunset's door closed. Marvel held it frantically. She had just moved herself over. Well, though, she liked to think about it. She thought that maybe Arya did have something of a point when she said that Sonata has a subconscious penchant for screwing things up. But she thought she could hardly say no now. As uncomfortable as the prospect was, the thought of doing otherwise filled her with something akin to guilt. Quite why, she couldn't say. So, resigned to her fate, she pressed her teeth as slowly as she could, put her pajamas in as much of a prolonged way as possible, took her hair out of its ponytail, and with sort of care one usually employed bomb disposal, checked herself in the mirror for any peculiarities she might hear to have noticed, and began to sort but duly and march to bed. The lights were off inside the bedroom. It was a small room in Sonata's opinion, but neat and early. Small chest of drawers next to the bed held a lamp, and the magic journal Sunset kept in order to contact Princess Twilight. Other than a wardrobe and laundry basket, nothing else stood in the room. A few photos, plaster, and a corkboard, but the room was very functional. Practical. It didn't hold much of the personal touches like the living room did. Having taken in all these details as though she were bidden to memorize them, Sonata turned her attention at last to the bed, and the person in it. As Sunset said, it was indeed made for two people. As Sunset laid on the side closest to the door, facing away from the other side. Sunset wasn't asleep, Sonata knew, so she quietly made her way to the bed and gently lifted the sheet. Gingerly, she sat down, listening as the springs groaned beneath her. Then she lifted one leg in, then the other, trying hard to stay to the margins. The process was taking an extraordinarily long time to perform, given how simple the action itself would have been. "Will you just lie down?" Sunset interrupted. Sonata jumped, yanking the covers over herself and holding still. She was in, so he lay stiff to his board, feeling the cold precipice at the bed's end under her right side, watching Sunset for any signs of continuing astonishment. Nothing further came. There was a good 2 or 3 beats between them, so Sonata felt over the next few moments it might be safe to edge a little closer in. Get comfortable, if you know what I mean. Nonetheless, her fingers visited with each other underneath the covers. She could not have felt more ill at ease. Just as she was beginning to demean herself where she was away until Sunset was properly asleep, slipped back onto her futon, she felt a slight trembling running through the bed. A slow, rhythmic shaking that could only be felt as Sonata lay still. Sonata looked quickly around, wondering if maybe someone's television or radio was still out somewhere, when hearing loud noises. Wait, that wasn't true. She could hear a noise. Very carefully, so not to disturb the bed too much, Sonata pressed herself up and looked over Sunset's shoulder. Her fist was gripping her pillow, bright blue eyes half closed and brimming with tears. She breathed through her mouth so that Sonata would not hear her sobs and sniffles, but couldn't quite mask her long gasps and whistles. Sonata understood in an instant why Sunset let her sleep in the same bed as her. Long forgotten feeling of loneliness and misery kept up from within her, a sensation of terrible cold and helplessness. She felt her own eyes stinging, and it suddenly didn't matter to Sonata what her own feelings towards Sunset were. All the awkwardness, her doubt, smothered but heartfelt desire to know what was felt towards her friend and fell away to a more natural need to comfort her. Without really thinking about it, she closed the distance between them, put an arm around her middle. Sunset twitched slightly, obviously not expecting to touch, but didn't push Sonata away. Her own trembling hand carrying Sonata's, she began to cry in hers. "It's okay," Sonata whispered, holding Sunset close. "I'm here. You're not alone." And then they banged!